And why do I relate? Why do I say it like that? Because you've got a whole lot of the past coming back to haunt you with these energies. Why? Because your mind has ruled you. Passion, Alexander, will always rule reason. And passion's the one thing that has not been ignited in this civilization. It has been buried under anger, low self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, unworthiness, and distrust. And right now, every bit of reasoning is being challenged. Why? Because we're in a pole shift that is going to shift you to this being your root chakra. Within the next 2 years, you're going to see people are going to understand energy consciousness rather than mental consciousness. So on all of the death code questions, I already gave you guys the answer. I'm not here, and neither is Alex, to take your hand and yank you. You guys have to do some work yourself, and that means getting to know thyself. So observe thyself. Observe where you truly aren't hearing, because your mind is attaching only to one or two words. Where your mind attaches to what somebody looks like, what somebody wears, somebody's personality, their character, because all of those things, your mind will blind you to any kind of higher truth that goes beyond a truth and untruth imbalance of polarity, because we do not live by truth or your truth or frequency or this, that, or the other. Not the way humans in the spiritual community have presented it. And so a whole lot of distorted light is surfacing because of what we as a collective have attached to, at least those of us who have awareness. So now on to the spring equinox question.
Okay, yeah, the spring, because on the last video, people wanted to make sure, was it this year or next year? And so we can start with that. And also we got some big radiation coming, some solar radiation coming pretty soon.
Very soon. I was sharing with Alex in about the next 36 to 40 hours. We're going to have a whole lot of solar energy that's going to hit the electromagnetic field of Earth. And in that, this is going to start challenging the mortal aspect of all of us, the humanness in a sense that hasn't been challenged. This is going to show you where your mind dictates your reality. And remember, one thing about this human civilization is they have been conditioned through an assumptive ideation, cognitive mentality, consciousness. And in that assumption, I'm going to put you on the spot. Elvira this morning was saying, I think I got bit by a bug because it's so itchy. And I said, look at what you just said. I said, you already know that everything is being dehydrated within us. I said, look at the work we've been doing here alone. I said, all of this light coming in is dehydrating the body. I said, but do you see how your mind automatically, oh, I must have been bitten by a bug. That's why I'm itchy. I said, do you see how your mind does not use any of your awareness at all? The awareness that we're being dehydrated from the inside out. And she's like, wow. So that's what I mean by all of this assumptive cognition is going to start surfacing to be recognized. And it's subtle. Look at how subtle with what I just described with Elvira. It is so subtle because that's the way you think. That's how we've thought our whole life, and that's what has to change. Another thing that I never mentioned to anyone before, except last night to these ladies as we were driving, cognitive bypassing. It's not a word anybody's heard. You've heard of spiritual bypassing. You've heard of emotional bypassing. Well, now all the cognitive bypassing of humans and this civilization is going to surface from the beginning of March, giving us 21 days equinox to harmonize bullshit. And what is that bullshit? That is the entire thought process of assumption and opinion that has been made to be factual, real, and true. Remember, this outside has to match the within. And this outside does not match the within of our soul new sun world. And again, the only way we can bring balance and harmony is to bring it to the surface world. So the battle that people are so convinced is playing out in the cosmos, that has not been playing out in the cosmos in thousands of years. Again, how it's processed in linear time is always thousands of years after it has actually taken place. And so you have all of this information that's coming up that has been divided into a good and an evil, including our star history and our origin. And all of that that says that there is evil has to be brought to the surface, because what I was sharing with Alex yesterday when we tried to do this recording yesterday was the Elohim separated that which was good, which means there was never anything stated that something was bad or evil, which is how especially interpretation of a lower frequency mind, which goes for any of the masters in this, even the ancient ones, they decoded and interpreted and translated from a bipolar mind and processed it through that mentality. That which the Elohim separated, that which was good, which means good was what was fractuated into 144,144 key geometries of good. A lady made a comment, 144,000 use key codes, not people, not persons, not beings. And I'm going to challenge it. I'm going to say she's wrong. Because as within, so without. Again, limited human mentality of what they attach to. Again, a truth and untruth war. But when you look at actuality of geometry, as within, so without, if there's only 144 key geometry holders that had 1,000 offspring each, then if there is a geometry, then there is a being. As within, so without, because that geometry has to come into a form in order to evolve itself. So again, the human mentality wants to limit it either or. And that's exactly what has happened with Christ consciousness. Oh, there's not a Christ returning, it's only Christ consciousness returning. Well, you can't have one return without the other, because Christ and Magdalene are titles of consciousness. And if a consciousness is coming, is returning, then so too will there be forms returning with the consciousness. So any bit of that separation of bad and evil is now going to present itself, because never in any ancient text or ancient scroll that we have written, never has it ever been written or spoken that there was bad and evil. It was good that was separated into more good. So why is there a truth war out here? Why is there a battle? Why are you guys rejecting people because of vibe, truth, because of star systems, because of skin color, races, colors, and creeds? It is only the mortal human that causes separation to be a bad or evil thing. Because if good is what was separated, then good was separated into good, separated into good, separated into good. So where does bad and evil come into that in enslavement of Anunnaki and reptilian? It doesn't. It's human interpretation. And human interpretation is assumptive. For thousands of years, this civilization has lived under an assumption consciousness. And it's the assumption that is the root of all evil. And so you are the roots of all evil, and why you have to pull up your roots. And you have to be the one to put your roots here instead of here. So the spring equinox this year, we are leading into it to bring in. Any equinox will bring equanimity and harmony and balance. And those are the three things you have to have before peace can be birthed in the outside world. You have to have that in here. And so as we come out of this 222 gateway, well, actually it's 5 2s, but and this is where the last 48 hours people have, the weather has changed drastically. Remember, we control the weather. There's no climate control out here. There's no outside source manipulating your weather. You guys want to know what's wrong with your weather? Take a look at yourselves. Look at what you're releasing. As within, we release it, it comes to the surface. We're energetic beings. We release energy, it manifests out here in the surface world. And that's one thing we cannot control as much as humans want to, is the timing of things. Humans don't relate what happens out here to what is going on in here and being released. So no, there's never been any manipulation. You guys have been unawakened. You have been unaware. You have been asleep to yourselves that you are what creates good, evil, bad, indifferent, happy, positive, joy, blah, 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 out here. Your emotions, you want to know look at your weather. Your weather is going to tell you the collective happiness or misery of the geographical location you're in. Look at the weather where you're at right now, Alex. What is it up in Glastonbury?
Well, I mean, just before we went on, it was doing terrible hailing and stuff. But talking about controlling the weather, just hold that thought form, staying on the same thought train. You know, the Arcturians on Arcturus, they can control their seasons. And the other interesting thing is, of course, the rain dance. You know, humans have been controlling the weather without harp and things like that. You know, they did a rain dance, there was enough collective consciousness energy, and then they changed the weather, as you say. So the sun is coming out a little bit here in Glastonbury, but it's a little bit up and down, but it's getting better.
In Texas, they're having freezing ice rain. Here we're having absolutely gorgeous weather. I'm not a fan of the humidity, but you know, the rainforests and the jungles are the lungs of Earth. And so, you know, we've spent a lot of time being in them and down in the Yucatan and whatnot. This past week, we had a toucan fly in front of us, which is beautiful, beautiful symbolism and totem medicine. But not only do we control the weather, there's no such thing as harp and all of that. That's just the story out here that has energy formed into, because humans can process that they're responsible for the misery of their own life and their civilization and their world. And nobody likes to hear that, but we're to blame. Simple as that. And the reflection of our governments, of all of the tension with the Ukraine, what's going on with the convoys and stuff like that. Energy has to have a physical representation. So if you get a whole group of us right now, there's just under 5 million that have any kind of awareness, of a higher awareness. There's less than 1 million that actually embody it and apply that awareness. Anyone can have it. But in that, those that are truly embodying it, and what I mean by that, maintaining their consciousness in every moment, rather than bouncing between being human when it's convenient and being spiritual when it's convenient, if you will. That pendulum swing, which is the journey of awakening, of mastery. So as those that truly apply their awareness and embody it, and that's hard to do because you guys start your journey out learning to master your mind, cognitive bypassing. That's what spirituality starts out teaching. And it teaches you spiritual bypassing and emotional bypassing. And cognitive bypassing is where you're only using your thought and your mind power to create positive thoughts when you have a negative thought or a negative feeling. For example, I went to put a CD in the car yesterday, and Elvira immediately, the music started to trigger her, right? And a sadness in her. And so instead of dealing with the sadness, she went to look up the lyrics of the song and this, that, and the other, her mind distracting her sensory feeling that the music was triggering in her. And that is how we self-sabotage ourselves. And that's what I mean by cognitive bypassing. Instead of allowing, there's a lot of light workers and way showers and whatever other labels out here that they give themselves. Life coaches, self-help gurus, whatever you want to call it, that start businesses and spiritual healing and this, that, and the other, and teach cognitive bypassing. Well, just overwrite your thinking. Just change your thoughts of how you deal with things, which teaches an imbalance, because none of these healers out here, none of them have experience in trauma healing. They think they can go into past life regression. They think they can override it by just changing your mind. But again, you've been split into a trinity: mind, what you think, what you say, and what you do, and they have to come into alignment. And just positive thinking overwrites only temporal. Sooner or later, the body in and of itself has to release information. And the only way it can do that is to do it mind, body, and heart or soul. Your heart has to release the emotion, the trauma, the feeling that it went through, that it witnessed, that it recorded. And you cannot do that by just changing your thoughts, regardless of what spirituality dictates. And why so many people go in a pendulum swing, because you think just saying positive affirmations will do it. Bringing understanding, help me understand the death codes, Linda. There's no understanding needed. Go into your heart, where you will gain clarity and understanding. What are the death codes? The death codes are reincarnation codes. This civilization, Alex, has lived under a preconceived consciousness. Do you know what that means? What does preconceived mean?
Preconceived. Well, it can sometimes be a conditioned or a programmed perception that is external, not with internal.
Okay, so if we program ourselves, okay, Alex, we're going to go incarnate on this planet called Earth together. And this is what I need to experience. This is what you need to experience in order to evolve our soul fractals to where they're in harmony. So take my hand, let's go jump into Earth. And we jump down into Earth. with our bodies already pre-programmed or preconceived, before conceived, which is conception. Before conception, preconceived. So everything about your mortal human called Alex, called Linda, was preconceived before it was ever conceived in conception. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand where you're going. Yeah.
Okay. So in that preconceived consciousness, now you are waking up. Wow, I'm this magnificent, holy being. I can heal everything just with my snap of my fingers, right? But then here comes the lower human that's already been preconceived, right? Oh no, I know everything. Nope, it's my truth. My truth is more important than yours. You mean your truth is more important than information? Wow. I thought you wanted to evolve and expand yourself, right?
Sure.
And so that's the battle between the mind and the heart. No, I'm knowing the preconceived assumption. Remember, it's a bug that bit me. No, your skin is itchy because you're dehydrated. Go put coconut oil on it. It will help stop the crack.
And that's partly to do with, the solar radiation coming in does dehydrate you. And I know the Arcturians talk about especially drinking a lot of water during this time as well. And also there's a Hertz frequency code that that specifically deals with the healing by the big solar radiation coming in as well. I know the Arcturians talk about needing to drink a lot of water as well. And I think listening to 741 Hertz frequency music helps clear that out too, doesn't it?
741 is really good right now. 741 Hertz. It not only assists with releasing codes of toxins, if you will, negative toxins within the body, negative charges. Remember, we're going from 6 electrons down to a unified 1 electron, which is a negative charge. An electron is feminine. It's a negative charge. It's what ignites passion to overrule reason, if you will. And when you look at unifying 6 into a 1, if you will, the 666 blueprint down to a 616, that means there's a lot of negativity that has to be released from the body. And we're not talking negativity just in a negative thought. That's the least of your worries. We're talking a negative charge, a light particle in your body that has to be released of that charge. And electrical is all unseen. It's all unknown. It's all unheard. And it's only sensory. It's feeling. And so 741 will bring up the trauma, everything that you have been avoiding, bypassing, succumbing, pretending it didn't matter. Because I call you a piece of shit, Alex. It's gonna hurt. There's gonna be a piece, whether it's joking, whether I say it jokingly, whether I say it deliberately to hurt you, whether we're just bantering back and forth. You're just a piece of shit. There is something within the body mechanism because it has a negative charge to it that is automatic, no matter how positive I say it. No matter what frequency I say it at, I could say it at the highest frequency, and there's going to be light particles in your body that have been preconceived and pre-programmed that says, oh God, that word is a low vibe word, and it's going to attract everything. Even though we're joking, right? You're not a piece of shit, Kirk Cancel, and believe all that. I'm using it as an example. But so the equinox this year, The equinox this year is bringing much more of that up to be balanced because we've exited out of a galactic activational portal 22222. And because we're coming in, this is a celestial story. I have to take it back. It's not about you all. The only way it's about you is you're here to be nothing other than to anchor the light, because this is a celestial story. And that celestial alignment that is going to fully anchor the diamondizing, if you will, is April 12th. And so all of this is waving out to that finalization of the meridian. Now, somebody asked if meridian that he experienced a trinity of, I'm speaking only of the latitudinal and longitudinal. You have to understand, you guys got a whole lot of grids. You have a tesseract within you. So whether you're experiencing only 3 grids coming together, grid lines, you got to understand you have a lot of latitudinal and a lot of longitudinal. So to the gentleman that made that comment and asked if I would comment on it, absolutely, you're going to experience that. You're going to experience that in many ways because you have a tesseract within you that moves in and out of dimensions within itself. And for the human, if you don't know what a tesseract is, look it up. It's a cube within a cube. And the cube within and the cube without, your 2 realities that have been separated. And so those cubes move in and out through different sides of your tesseract, which means all 12 density dimensions of yourself you experience in every given moment. It's not like today you're going to experience 5D, Alexander, and tomorrow you might experience 12D, and the next day you might experience 2D. It doesn't work like that. In every given breath, you guys are experiencing simultaneously, and you don't even know it because it merges into one physical reality of energetic interpretation now being brought into a form. So how much of you in this moment, Alex, tell me, can you tell me in any given aspect of what I've just said to you, what is 1st dimension, what is 7th dimension, what is 9th dimension, and what is 12th dimension, and what is 5th dimension information I just gave you?
Well, I explain it differently. I call them the densities because dimensions and densities are different.
No, they're not. They're the same thing.
Well,
They're density dimensions because they're material realms. As long as it's material realm, it's density.
Well, I always explain the 3rd density or dimension, if you will, as the material world of fear. That's how I best described it, the 3rd dimension.
If the 3rd dimension has fear, and this existence is enveloped of all 12 density dimensional frequency material realms. They're not separate from each other. You guys live them out in your waking state right now in every given moment. So how can one be a fear and not all 12?
Well, that's
if there's fear in one density dimensional frequency, there is fear in all 12. So that's why I say these light workers that say the 12th dimension and 10th dimension and 5th dimension are separate from the 3D existential display, they're caught up in distortion. We have to have an existential disc plane in order to have form for our material realm. So even though the 12 density material realms are etheric, all 12 density dimensional simultaneous frequency realms of yourself are all wrapped up into that little body called Alex. And it's playing out in every given moment. So tell me that there's no fear in the 5th dimension when you're in a body of form that is preconceived of all 12 density dimensions. If one is good and one is bad, then they're all good and they're all bad and they're all evil. So tell me the fifth dimension and higher frequencies are not distorted. And I'm going to tell you, you're not connected to your heart and the true information within yourself, because you're creating separation by a mental limited understanding. All 12 density material realms exist within your body, and you walk through it, whether you call yourself awake, whether you call yourself asleep. You walk through it in every given moment. Every single one of them culminated into a physical expression called Alex out here. What part of yourself is first dimension? What part of yourself is 12th dimension? You cannot in any way, shape, or form cognitively discern the difference between the two of them, between the two, between the 4, the 6, the 8, the all 12 of them together, or the 1, 3, 7, 5, 7, 9.
I know, well, that's why they call it multi-dimensionality, or in that because it is all at the same time.
It is all at the same time, which means your journey to remembering, your journey to mastery, means you have to consistently walk through all 12 density material realms, consistently clearing the good and evil separation in all frequencies within yourself, because you have never been separated. Where one goes, we all go. The only thing that means is if one aspect, density, dimensional aspect of yourself goes into density, then all 12 density dimensions of your material preconceived world also goes into density. And why you're to wake yourself up to multidimensionality and not play the battle of information wars. You walk through it and evolve to a higher dimensional frequency and anchor it into your 3D existential disc plane form that consists of all of you. But see, people don't like, they want to say, I'm awake, I'm aware, I'm multidimensional, but then only look through, well, this is my truth and that's your truth. Well, then you're not multidimensional. I'm sorry, because you're not allowing a flow. You're limiting it. Nope. You're limiting information. And that is what you have to die to. And why the journey is not for the faint of heart, because you have to consistently challenge your thought process, your understanding. It's called understanding for a reason. You're keeping yourself trapped in the underworld of the living dead, not bringing yourself alive. So the spring equinox is going to burst some more bubbles. I love it. I love the universe when the universe comes in and bursts people's bubbles, because that means we're one step closer. Bring on the chaos. That means we can transmute it. We can transform the energies. This world don't need healing. This world needs responsibility of self. But you can't have responsibility of self until you know thyself, and you will never understand thyself. That's why it's called Father Light. It's why the Holy Eternal Mother and Father in and of itself represents the ineffable and the unknowable, because it's always ever expanding within itself. And as long as you see anything outside of everything being good and divine as it needs to be out here, you're not centered in your heart. You're centered in a war and a battle of being special and being recognized. And that's self-unworthiness. Because you're trying to prove something to the world. And as long as you're trying to prove something to the world, you're in your mind, because your mind loves to be proved. Give me proof. Give me understanding. So what I said about the spring equinox of 2023. Now, again, hear my words, people. Don't put your own interpretation to the information. So many people focus on me when I say that that's my transcendence. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does it matter to you? Number one, why do I matter so much? Don't worry about me. Connect to information and get clarity. My transcendence is no big deal. You know, I'm not afraid to die and lay my vessel down. That doesn't mean I die. You know, transcendence for me means a shift in the collective consciousness, not necessarily a physical death. So to answer the people's questions that go on and on and on, well, what does this mean about Linda? What does she mean, her transcendence? Don't make it about me. I'm talking from information that you guys can't perceive from my angle anyways, because it's my angle. I have specific wisdom codes, just like each of you do, that are a key of us as a whole. So it don't matter about me personally. What matters is everything we do. So when I say next 2023, the spring equinox, we will be done. What I mean by that is consciousness has to be anchored into the grid system, which is your avatar body, right? Smile.
Yeah, carry on. Carry on. I'm listening.
So in that, you guys are anchoring all those density dimensional realms that you've been unaware of. You're bringing that in and anchoring it into your body so you can expand Alex's character, personality, information that's held within all that preconceived ideation. You're releasing all that. And so when I speak of 2023 in the spring equinox, that is when we anchor fully all of the diamondizing into the grid. The grid will be diamondized by that point. And in other words, there will be enough of you in a high enough frequency that can bring in and actually embody and apply it and bring in a neutral balance, like all of this bouncing out here in the quantum field and the collect. Just be positive, or just this vibe, or just that vibe. You have to unify all 12 of them within you so you can see from all different dimensional realms of information and lump it together to transmute it all at once. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
So this spring equinox is about, well, any equinox, but this is bringing balance and harmony and more equanimity to the right and left brain information, unifying it with the right left brain and the higher intelligence for those who allow it, that trinity into wholeness. It brings more harmonizing. And then we lead that into the celestial alignment of the second coming of the Christed sun code within us in April. And then from that moment forward, it is going to be an unfolding of truly that which does not match all of this, the return, the full activation of the return of the Christ coding within, sun coding within. So as much as things are going to stabilize within and you feel more blissful and you feel more peaceful and you're not emotionally reactive or caught up in the stories out here, it'll get more chaotic out here. Remember, we're walking through 5 years of the dark night of the world soul, which means the Christ is returning, that Christed light within, which makes those that are truly ascending to become Christed, full Christed beings in form. This whole civilization is not going to be that, because this whole civilization, outside of the limited understanding of the humans that are awakening, this civilization is a galactic hub outside of those of you that have not fully awakened to yourself. And in that, your perception has to change. You see Linda and Alex, right? I don't see Linda and Alex, what you guys see as far as the physical human form, a woman and a man. You know, Alex wearing a sweater, I'm wearing a tank top. I see the true form of us, which is where you guys are waking up to. And I'm not saying I'm special. We need some of us at different frequencies. We need all of us at different frequencies to help each other, because together we make a prism. And that diamond cannot come into, oh, I don't got a one you can really see. Well, I'll use this one. You have a stone here, and then you have, no, let me see it, little leaves right here. This is a Sleeping Beauty turquoise. It's really rare, but in that, I was trying to, I don't think you can see my diamond, but do you see the cut of that, how it's cut? It has, like, you know, it's a marquee cut. And it's shaped with prismatic sides, yes? So if I'm the prismatic side, the angle of that diamond that's going here, and then there's a straight prismatic side here, and then another angle here that forms the diamond, right? How can your truth be more important than mine? How can your frequency be more important than mine, or vice versa? We need the whole prismatic diamond together to make the diamond, yes? Okay, so that's what this spring equinox to next spring equinox is doing. It's bringing all the pieces back together, what you guys call soul monad, soul tribe, soul family, blah, 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 blah. It's bringing all 12 density material realms to be seen, rather than being the 5th through the 12th density dimensional frequency realms unseen. You guys are bringing it alive on the 3D existential disc plane, what is called form, in order to experience living. So 3D, yes, it's a density 1 through 12. But the 3D world out here, the surface, is what you guys are here to transform. You're here to anchor light into it, to show you that it's not evil out here, that your government and everything is not corrupted, that there's no such thing as HARP and all this other stuff, that was your limitedness of your thought process. This surface world is an existential disc plane. It is an intergalactic hub. And the only reason you guys can't see it is because you're unwilling to let go of your skin and see through it. This is so important, how you look, how your hair looks, your skin colors, your wealth, your abundance, your words. Everything physical is more important than the truth of who and what you are. And when you guys truly get here and bring all aspects of yourself here, you're not going to be playing this, oh, just be high vibes and positive. You're going to stop entertaining that split world. And you're going to unify yourself in the multidimensionality. And that is not dictated by anything out here that will always appear separated, because we're on a dual plane of existence, which means diversity, not bipolarity of separation.
Well, what I would say specifically about going into in terms of actual planetary activity going up towards April is an incredibly accelerated time of actual manifestation. and being able to manifest down actually into the earth plane is very accelerated going up to April. And I would say if there's plans or things you want to do, projects, now is a very, very good time to take a major leap of faith and go for it. Because we have
Yeah.
2, which is the master builder number, and various other things. So we're in a massive accelerated time of manifestation. And also we have the Mars Venus situation going on. So with relationships, anything that is not going to be of a frequency is going to come knocking on your door.
It's really hard, especially with relationships, whether that's personal romantic relationships, whether that's friendship, whether that's family relationship in and of itself. And right now, it's all about a letting go, because we have attached to stories, experiences, people, places, things that was needed at the time, but was there to serve a purpose. And one thing about us mortals in that sense is we can't let go. We form emotional attachments. Well, I have to love them unconditionally. So just because they're at a lower frequency means I have to stay and I have to help them and I have to this, but I love them. I can't let go of it, Linda. The best piece of guidance I can give, let go. If it's meant to be, it will be. It will come back around. Everything is cyclic. So you get in a fight with somebody right now and you part ways and it's negative, have no doubt it's going to come back around. Life is cyclic. Always giving you opportunity to neutralize any energy, because to the human, you think you're arguing or breaking up with somebody or leaving a job or this, that, and the other. When in all actuality, the only thing you're doing is severing the emotional attachment to that version of them. Let them go, break up, leave the job, quit, whatever it is, because it will come back around, giving you opportunity to shift it to a higher frequency storyline, to where you're not losing people unless you need to. And so many of our romantic relationships, our business relationships right now, are going through that because they're old frequency versions. And if we can't let it go, then we're not allowing our own story to end, to shift to a higher frequency with that being's soul signature. 2, we're trapping them in our frequency because they have contracted, preconceived soul contract with us. Right? Say you and I are in a marriage and we're arguing, or it's just we're bouncing and it's just not harmonious. And so we're battling. Do we separate? Do we stay together? Separate. Sever the attachments to both of our versions of ourselves. Why? Because maybe my soul purpose now is to go to Antares. But I can't do that until you release me, even though we're in a marriage, until you release me from our soul contract. And that's really what the human battle in any relationship is the souls are saying, hey, I need to go this way and I need to go this way, but you're not releasing me from the soul contract. Start releasing yourself from the soul contract, the ideation. Let this version of yourself go, because that's what you're resisting, even though it seems like you're arguing with the other person, or it's discordant, or you're not vibing and jiving together anymore. The sex is fantastic, but the personality's just got to go, Linda. You know what I'm saying? It's everything is surfacing right now to sever the null and void, the soul contract, to where the heights that you can release them from this version. And I know that's kind of hard for a lot of people right now, but we have to let go of this version of the surface world out here that we perceive in order for the other one to present itself. You have to let go of the version. So just start separating. Release and honor people to go release them from the construct of the preconceived soul contracts. Because it's only a perception that you're leaving. Even if it's seemingly you break up with somebody or you quit a job that you've loved forever. I have one of my team members that worked in the corporate world and just actually left it after 35 years. And in going through that withdrawal of losing her identity because she's been a corporate vice president, you know.
By the way, I've been getting a lot of emails like that, corporate people coming to me saying, I'm falling away from the old identity, you know, how do I do it? How do I go forward? Like, boom, like this is scary. I've been getting a lot of emails like that. Big corporate people.
Remember those death codes? See how it's presenting itself? Yep. And I am too. I'm getting a lot of people asking about it. Just remember, even though, Alex, I'm going to put it on you and me again, even though you and I have only come into each other's presence in these last couple of years through connection over the internet, right? We have been in every incarnation together. If one goes, we all go. So if good has been separated into 144,000 fractals of itself, then good has to incarnate with itself in any incarnation it has ever had. Yes. So because you live in a seemingly reality called the UK and somebody's in Africa and Ethiopia and Egypt and India and San Antonio, Texas, it doesn't matter. That is truly what unified consciousness means, is all fragments of good being reunited. So even though you could have lived in Thailand the last incarnation, and I could have been in Egypt and we never met, it doesn't matter. We are still all incarnated at the same time. Instead of only one of us being recognized as a light being, we're all coming together to form a diamond grid on this surface world. And that diamond grid, March equinox of 2023 next year, will be fully anchored into this land, and we will be unified at this aspect inside of ourselves. And the individual from that point, it'll be much easier to awaken, if you will, to unify, because the diamond grid of us at the soul aspect will have been completely unified by spring equinox next year. We will diamondize the grid. Doesn't mean everybody's going to be at the same high frequency, but it's going to be a harmonizing. But then, you know, has to be within first, and then it'll start playing out here.
Understood. We are going to wrap it there, because we can always do another one. Linda, would you like to go first?
I want you to go first, sweetheart.
Oh, you love putting me on the spot. You love putting me on the spot.
I love making you uncomfortable, because that is where you truly let yourself shine, Alex.
I know, and I put it out there on YouTube for everyone to see it, and you say something very long, and then you go, now, Alex, I want you to tell all 20,000 people, what does that mean? And I'm like, okay, I can do this. Okay, so I'll go first.
You know why I do that? You know why I do that?
I know, I love it. I love it when you do that.
Because it shows people that the struggle is real, that we're not above anybody, that we do understand, because we have to walk through it. It's the only way we gain wisdom.
Well, I love being vulnerable when we get together, and you know, I'm always learning things. You know, there's a lot of things I already know, but it's real fun. So
what I would like to say is I would really encourage people to look at the judgment within their comments. It's really, really necessary right now to truly hear yourselves. And there was a lot of judgment and a lot of rude comments that I read. And it's not that Alex is talking over me or I'm talking over Alex. What is occurring is we are in two different countries. And please really observe your guys' words. And a lot of the comments were asking questions of information that I had already given. And one of the patterns and conditionings of the inverted matrix of enslavement is those with ears to hear will hear themselves. Those with eyes to see will see what they're doing, their human and their thought process. And right now it's really, really necessary to observe, and please listen to my words. Observe your thought process before you start processing those thoughts. And what do I mean by that? In the comments, again, there's a lot of judgment that did not need to be put out into the quantum field. And there was a lot of, almost every question came from the mental mind, not a heart-centered space. So I'm going to encourage you guys on another level to raise yourself to really start observing your thought processes. Is it truly coming from your higher awareness, or is it coming from your mortal human? And the majority of the comments and the judgments in your comments on our last video strictly came from a linear, limited human mentality. And so going forward, that's going to be necessary for each and every one of us to catch. And pay attention to where you focus on only a limited amount of information. I gave all the information that could answer any of those questions on death codes and everything else in that video. But what the majority of the watchers focused on was two words: death codes. And because the human conditioning has been to limit your focus only on key things, you miss all the rest of the information, and why you come back wanting understanding. The majority of the comments on our video, Alexander, were all coming from a mental, linear, mortal mind. And I'm sorry if you guys get butthurt on that, but check yourselves. Came from a mental, limited, mortal mind of wanting understanding. So to answer your guys' questions, go back and listen to the video on the death codes. I gave the command, that's all you need to do. But more importantly, observe thyself to know thyself. And if you're trying to understand, you're trying to understand information, which means you are not heart-centered. You are not here trying to get clarity. You're here trying to gain understanding for a limited tunnel vision mind, and rather than evolve and expand yourself here. So on the death code comments and all of those questions, I'm going to encourage you guys to get heart-centered and go back and listen to what I stated, because I told exactly what needed to be done. All you have to do is say a command to release your death codes, and then stay here, and all of your triggers, your experiences, everything out here is going to show you the codes that are being released, whether that's your boyfriend or girlfriend or baby daddy and baby mama or ex-ho or whatever it is for each of you, that experience that comes.